Welcome to my channel. Here are the top 10 mind-blowing facts about China that you never knew. Make sure to watch until the end because the last fact is really interesting. Let's go. Number 10. A baby was sold for $78,000 in China. China has a one-child policy where families are only allowed to have one child per household. This was implemented in an effort to slow down China's rapid population growth. However, many families still wanted more than one child, so a booming underground industry of adoptions and surrenders developed. In some cases, families would abandon their unwanted children on the side of the road or in public places. In other cases, they would sell their children to other families who were willing to pay a hefty price. One baby was even sold for the equivalent of $78,000. The Chinese government is aware of this problem and is trying to crack down on it. But the practice is so widespread that it's difficult to stop. No. 9 ancient thieves once hired a hitman to assassinate King Gujian. After the death of King Gujian, Thebes became one of the most powerful states in ancient China. However, this didn't last for long. Soon Thebes began to decline, and the king's nephew Gujian took the throne. Gujian was a weak ruler and he was constantly harassed by the neighboring states. The state of Wu, seeing an opportunity to expand its territory, declared war on you. The war was going poorly for Wu until they hired a hitman named Jinke to assassinate King Gujian. Jinke infiltrated the court and poisoned the king's wine. However, Gujian drank the wine and lived. He survived due to a last-minute antidote given by his concubine. Once he recovered, he had the hitman put to death. Enraged by the assassination attempt, he led his army to victory against Wu. After the war, he returned to the capital and built a tomb for the hitman as a reward for his bravery. No. 8. People with red hair are often hated in China. Red hair is often associated with danger and evil in Chinese culture. This can make life difficult for people with red hair in China. They may be treated like outcasts, and they may face discrimination in areas like housing and employment. Some people with red hair have even been the victim of hate crimes. Despite the challenges they face, people with red hair are an important part of Chinese society. They should be embraced and celebrated, not feared and ostracized. Number 7. The first European to enter China arrived in 1293. His name was Giovanni da Montecorvino, and he was an Italian missionary. He traveled to China with the hopes of converting the Chinese people to Christianity. However, he soon realized that this would be a difficult task. The Chinese people were deeply entrenched in their religious beliefs and were not open to Christianity. Undeterred, he continued his mission and eventually made it to the court of the Mongol emperor. The emperor was initially friendly towards the missionary, but soon became suspicious of him and his motives. Eventually, Giovanni was expelled from China, and he returned to Italy. Despite the failure of his mission, Giovanni's travels to China were an important event in the history of European exploration. He was one of the first Europeans to see the vastness and riches of the Mongol Empire. His account of his travels helped to open up China to the rest of Europe. Number 6. There are over 1 billion people in China. That's almost 1 out of every 7 people on Earth. With so many people living in close proximity to each other, it's bound to get crowded. But the Chinese have found ways to make the best of it. For example, they've invented some truly impressive feats of engineering, such as the Great Wall of China and the Terracotta Army. And they've also come up with some unique ways of doing things, such as using chopsticks instead of forks and knives and taking the subway while standing. Of course, there are also plenty of downsides to having so many people in one place. For example, there's a lot of competition for resources and jobs, and pollution is a constant problem. But overall, the Chinese people seem to be making the best of it. They're a resilient and resourceful people, and they've managed to create a society that works despite the challenges they face. Number 5. In China, it's common for people to spit on the ground. It might seem gross to us, but to the Chinese, it's just a way of life. It's considered rude not to spit when you're angry or frustrated, and it's often done in public. If you try to stop someone from spitting, you'll likely be seen as being uncultured yourself. So if you ever visit China, don't be surprised if you see people spitting everywhere. Just remember that it's not personal. It's just the way that they express themselves. No, for the man who shot Lincoln's assassin was Chinese. John Wilkes Booth shot and killed Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. On April 15, 1865, Booth was a member of the Confederate States of America, and he assassinated Lincoln in retaliation for the Union victory in the Civil War. After shooting Lincoln, Booth fled to Maryland, where he was tracked down by a group of Union soldiers. One of these soldiers was a Chinese immigrant named Ling Sun. Ling Sun and his group eventually found Booth hiding in a tobacco warehouse. Booth refused to surrender, so Ling Sun shot him. Booth died from his wounds shortly afterwards. Ling Sun was hailed as a hero for his part in capturing Booth, but he quickly returned to obscurity. After the Civil War, Ling Sun returned to China, where he died in 1915. An earthquake in China killed 100,000 people. On January 22, 1556, a massive earthquake struck the Chinese city of Shanxi. The earthquake had a magnitude of 8.2, and it is considered to be one of the deadliest in history. The earthquake caused widespread destruction, and it is estimated that it killed between 80,000 and 100,000 people. The earthquake also left hundreds of thousands of people homeless. In the aftermath of the earthquake, the Chinese government set up relief camps to help the survivors. However, conditions in the camps were terrible, and many people died from disease and starvation. Number 2. At least 10 million people live in the demilitarized zone between North Korea and South Korea. The demilitarized zone is a strip of land that was created in 1953. During the Korean War, the DMZ is supposed to be a buffer zone between the two Koreas. But it's actually home to a thriving ecosystem of plants and animals. The DMZ is also home to at least 10 million people. These people live in the villages and towns that are located near the border. Life for these people is tough. They live in constant fear of war, and they have to deal with regular military drills. But they're also some of the most resilient people in the world. One of China's biggest exports is weapons. This might come as a surprise to some, but it's actually a fact. China is one of the largest producers and exporters of weapons in the world. In recent years, China has become increasingly assertive on the international stage. And part of this assertiveness has been shown through their willingness to sell weapons to countries around the world. China has sold weapons to countries like Pakistan, North Korea, and Iran. This has caused some concern in the international community, especially given China's close ties to these countries. There is concern that China could use its weapons sales to further its own interests, potentially destabilizing the regions where these weapons are sold. Thanks for watching. See you next time.